Okay, we are now at public comments. Is anyone here for public comment?
Good morning, evening. I am Michael Luther, 128 Northrop Road. The purpose of coming this evening is once more to thank you who are elected officials at this meeting for the service you have given to our town. You've heard me say before that it would be awfully nice if we could get more people out to vote. They have, and we have results with which we can concur. It would be lovely to see our vote go above 50%, but I'm always looking for something more. We in Woodbridge have held on with pride as one of some half-dozen towns which continue to meet to elect local officials after the crops have been planted, and to meet again about state and national officers after the crops have been harvested. This first half of calendar 2015 has been out of the ordinary, without precedent, and for some of us lacking in both civility and conversation as to the whole truth. Perhaps too often some of you have heard me say the quote from John Adams, "Facts are stubborn things. They cannot be altered by our passions." To reach resolution of differences requires reading, listening, and learning the positions with which you may not agree is a very necessary thing to happen. And such activity demands civil discourse. This evening I am here with you as someone going to one of 4 of our volunteer groups to express my appreciation for what you have done. And I want to present each of you an award which is intended both to recognize your real and valued service and efforts to our town, and to give tangible evidence of the same. I'm just one citizen. I feel you people should receive reward. The quote is one of my favorites, Teddy Roosevelt.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Anyone
you,
else
Michael.
for public comment?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is
That's
Harry.
it. It's an,
Very nice.
an unusual evening. Next, we are at number 4. Our attorney on solar matters is here, Paul Michaud. Thank you for waiting. We're a little bit behind schedule. And this is with respect to awarding the bid for the solar array at the landfill. If you all recall, we sent out an RFP. We got several responses, and Paul's going to update us on a recommendation, and I guess then we would vote to award the bid.
Yes. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, as you know, in February, my firm and I were asked to carry out an RFP to select a solar company to install a solar array on your landfill that would help or provide energy to most or all of the town's energy facilities, and we did that. So the RFP went out in February. We did a site walk of the landfill at the end of February. Proposals were due in March, and April through May, we Tony and myself and First Selectmen, we reviewed the proposals. In all, we received 8 proposals. Solar City, Kingspan Energy, Sun Edison, Project Navigator, Green Skies, Deutsche Echo, Be Free Solar, and CGC Company, which in 8 proposals was actually a very robust proposal response to the RFP. There were a lot of interested and very good companies that submitted proposals. We got it down to 2 companies, Solar City and Deutsche Echo, and then we asked them to refresh their bids, which was allowed under the RFP, based on a 1 megawatt system, because in the original RFP, we got different size systems, so we wanted to compare apples to apples, and 1 megawatt system was appropriate for the municipal load in this town. So we did get those refreshed bids. We reviewed them, and at the end of the day, we recommend that the town select Deutsche Echo to be the solar provider. They are proposing a 1 megawatt system, and this system would provide electricity virtually through virtual net metering to virtually every building that the municipality owns. There's 2 options under their proposal. Option 1 was at a PPA rate, a flat rate for 20 years. So this rate would stay the same for the next 20 years at 5.8 cents a kilowatt hour. That's if interconnection costs come out to be what we think they are, which would be about $70,000 actually to interconnect the system into the UI's distribution system. If it turns out, and this is hopefully a worst case scenario, if it turns out that the interconnection system, the interconnection costs are far more, we put that out at if it was $500,000 to interconnect, their rate would be 7.3 cents a kilowatt hour, which is still a very good rate. And what they've agreed to is a sliding scale. So for example, if interconnection costs come out less than $70,000, they're going to reduce their rate. If it comes out anywhere in between $70,000 and $500,000, they'll increase it on a sliding scale accordingly. So that's the good news. We predict that if it does come out as expected at a 5.8 cent per kilowatt hour, the town will save several $1 million over a 20-year contract over what it's paying now. Again, you're locked in at 5.8 cents. So 18 years from now, as prices have gone up considerably, no doubt, you'd be still paying 5.8 cents. That's the good news. There are some potential barriers to this project. Under UI was able to impose a virtual net metering cap of $2 million, and this program has been so successful and so many municipalities have wanted to do it that the cap has been filled. So this project, if you approve it, will go in under on a waiting list. The legislature has indicated they want to do an administrative fix to expand the cap. We hope that'll happen through the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. But for now, at this point in time, the project would be on a state's waiting list to get done. And again, if the town is free to voice their opinion to the state legislature, the ET committee, that would be very helpful. But right now, that's where we are on this project. So we're asking today that the project be approved.
Could I ask you how long the waiting list would be estimated to be? Or do you have an experience with that?
Yeah, it could be up to a year. What happens is projects before us, and I know that there are some projects that aren't, I will call them ready to go. They actually have a year to get interconnected or they get kicked out. And the process started about 7 or 8 months ago. So there are projects that are hopefully are going to get kicked out of the queue, and we'll be able to step in.
Okay.
That's the hope.
Excuse me for 1 minute. I think, Jerry, there's a brief memo from Tony. It really just says the same thing, but we had it just to distribute.
And just to be clear, Paul, you're asking that the project be approved, but also specifically the vendor that you've chosen to be approved.
Exactly. Yeah, we're asking that Deutsche Echo be the solar company that the town chooses to install.
And Deutsche Echo is the company that's doing the solar installation at the JCC, is that
That's
correct? Also, you said all the town buildings, I'm not sure it includes Beecher Road School. I don't, does it?
That's right, we excluded
Yeah.
Beecher Road School.
Right, right.
Yeah, because they already have solar,
Right.
yeah. And it doesn't include the high school either.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Paul, just remind me, because I just don't remember. Visually, what does one see when this is installed? How, what's the scope of it, if you will?
It's relatively flat land, your landfill. So it's, you'll just see solar arrays they'll go about this high. It's a 1 megawatt system. So it'll just be a field of perfectly aligned solar arrays,
No higher than this?
about this high,
Okay.
I think, because they're going to be on racking that puts them a little off the ground to keep the snow off of them. So they're usually they're a little shorter than I am.
And what's the distance from, if I'm in the parking lot of the transfer station, what's the distance to the landfill? Does anybody know? Here's why I'm asking the question. The installation at the JCC, I don't know if anybody has seen it.
Yes.
It is massively overwhelming visually.
Oh, because it's on
It's on
top.
top.
It's to cover the
Correct.
parking lot. Oh,
Correct.
yeah, no, that's
Well,
not
and
this.
it's on
It's
two
the
sides of the
parking
parking lot.
lot.
It's not just on one side. So I just want to make sure that's not what we're doing
No.
here. We're talking about a field of megawatts,
Yeah, it's all the same level,
same level.
lower, but high enough to keep
Okay.
the snow off the solar panels.
Will it have a fence around it? Do
Yes.
they-
Yeah, because there's kids up there playing
Right.
baseball and
That's part of what they,
Acorn Hill,
That's in the proposal. They will provide a fence.
I have a couple of questions. I don't, this is all I've seen. I haven't seen the proposals. I haven't seen exactly how many kilowatts we're using. But for example, if for, let's say, because you use it as an example, $500,000 was the interconnection cost to
Yes.
build. And you say it goes up to 0.73. You just stated that we may incur a couple million in savings over 20 years at the 5.8 rate. I don't know how many kilowatts we use, so if it was the 7.3 rate, what is the savings, or is there a savings? In other words, there's got to be a break-even line. Do we know where that is based on our usage?
I don't know what that is. It's far. I believe you're paying over 8 cents now for
I
your
think
energy.
so, but the man who knows, who really knows is not
All right,
here.
so
For example, I think you're paying
About
8 to 9 cents now, which is historically low.
So if we get up to 0.73, we're at a smaller savings, but a savings.
Yes, and
Under
it's
8.
locked in, and the key is it's locked in for 20 years, and so when we do run the analysis, we assume a 3% growth rate in the utility costs over time, every year. Historically, they're over 4 or 5% easily, but we were conservative with that. But yeah, there'll be less savings, but you'll still have savings.
And just, I'm sorry, refresh my memory about maintenance of the solar panels and average lifespan of the panels themselves, and who handles if they need to be replaced. Is that a cost to us? Is that part of the maintenance program?
The only cost to the town is to pay the energy, the cents per kilowatt hour. Deutsche Echo will own, operate, maintain the panels. It's all baked into the cost here, so there's no.
So when panels go or get broken, they replace them. It's all part of their own maintenance of their field.
Yes, and the panels are warranted for 25 years by the manufacturer, but that's for Deutsche Echo.
What about insurance?
In the PPA, we require the system to be insured by Deutsche Echo.
And what about our insurance from the town? They okay us having a solar field over there on our?
I don't know if Tony specifically asked that question, but what's your experience on that?
Yeah, our experience in many other towns is that it hasn't affected their insurance
Okay.
at all.
With all due respect to Paul, this has been great, but I don't know, to the extent he's asking for an approval tonight, I don't feel comfortable without seeing the proposal or an executive summary. I mean, this is a big thing for the town, and I would like to see something in writing that I could review before I.
Of the details of the proposal? Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine, we can, we can vote on it next time and do a summary. I mean, Tony gave a brief summary.
I mean, that was great, don't get me wrong, but, you know,
Yeah.
for me to say, yeah, this is great I would like to see, Susan asked, you know, what's it gonna look like, whereas I think we should see all that before we approve something like this for the town of Woodbridge.
And if Tony was here, we could ask him a few of what we are.
Well, you know what I would suggest, if everyone could get their questions to us in the next couple of days, so that we make sure we answer them all for the next meeting.
That's fair enough.
There's no time constraints here.
Well, there is a procedural, yeah, there is a time.
What is that?
These projects are all going to be submitted into the ZREC LREC auction. The auction is open now, and the auction deadline is June 18th. The only thing that they would need in order to submit into the auction is for the town to agree to actually allow the company to submit the application into the auction. There's an affidavit that has to be signed by the town, and what it basically says is, yeah, we know this company may build a put a solar array in our land, and we're allowing them to submit into the auction
Without future obligation.
without future applications. It's just a site control, but it's something that would need to be signed.
Well, that's,
So given the waiting list and all, I think that would be a good idea. Can you tell us exactly what that's called, and we'll make the motion to authorize the first selectman to sign the document, which you will now describe.
Yeah, it's a site control certification.
So
Okay.
moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
yeah,
Any other-
non-binding, right?
Non-binding.
Non-binding.
The only binding document would be the
I
power
like
purchase
those
agreement,
words.
which we have not
Okay.
negotiated.
Right, right. And
Okay,
then-
so
and
any
then-
other discussion on that? If not, all
I
those in
just need
favor?
to know who moved and seconded.
I made the motion,
and
That's
pick-
second.
Pick somebody.
or whoever. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. So let me just remind everyone, please, I know you want a summary of the deal and what the proposal is. Any other questions, please get them to Jerry maybe by the end of the week, so we
Maybe
can
on
make sure to have
24th
the
we can talk
information. And
And add to the 24th again?
yes, it's going to be a long meeting. Paul, if you don't mind staying for another couple of minutes, if there's no objection, I'd like to go to item 9A, which town council will be reporting to us. It is something also relating to renewable energy credits, so in case there are any additional questions, do you mind
That's
just
right.
staying for another moment?
Well, I'm just going to give like a 2-sentence summary of what it is, and then I think if there are any questions, this document is in your packet.
We got them.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, they're coming around again in case you're not.
Oh, you already have them?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
everybody has
PDF'd it to them, and
Some
then
of
I
us print
gave
them
them
off.
hard copies.
She,
Does anybody
she
need
brings hard copies too.
Susan,
So you guys have
Do
them?
you need a copy?
We're jumping to 9A?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that. No, I'm okay.
Okay.
So this is very, very briefly, and again, your questions need to go to Paul. This is an agreement, an assignment and assumption agreement. This relates to Beecher Road School and the renovation that's being undergoing right now, and the solar energy panels that will be installed or are installed, I'm not sure. And this agreement is a follow-up agreement to a document that was signed by the town in August of 2014 with the United Illuminating Company. And the town is going to is the recipient of certain renewable energy credits. Those renewable energy credits are in the name of the town, and according to the agreement, and UI is asking that, or Green Bank, which is going to be the owner of the equipment and is also going to supply the money to get the equipment, Green Bank needs to have the renewable energy credits that were given to the town assigned to them, because they factored in our cost, those renewable energy credits. UI is going to consent to it, and it's just a formality and a follow-up to the actual agreement we signed in 2014. Is that fair?
Okay. Good. Why don't you make the motion, Jim?
Oh, I can't make the motion.
can't.
I know.
You can.
What? Okay, what are we asking for?
9A.
Approve. Okay, I would move to approve the assignment and assumption agreement and consent to assignment ZM 15861 and authorize the first selectman to sign same.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now at the public hearing on the Neighborhood Assistance Act. I'm going to skip number 5 because we have to do it, we had it for 7:30 for the public hearing. It'll only take a moment. This is item number 6. We do this every year. We receive applications on the Neighborhood Assistance Act, and just bear with me for a moment. So I call the public hearing to order on the Neighborhood Assistance Act in accordance with Section 12-632 of the Connecticut General Statutes, otherwise known as the R.E. Van Nostrand Neighborhood Assistance Act. I call this public hearing to order to receive comments on the applications received for the 2015 Neighborhood Assistance Act. The legal notice was published in the New Haven Register on Thursday, May 28, 2015. Is there a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public present regarding the applications which we have before us? There are 2 applications from the Amity Teen Center at 10 Selden Street. One is for lighting and HVAC renovations for $24,500. The second is for energy efficient siding and windows, training teens in entrepreneurial skills for $24,900. Are there any comments from anyone in the public? Has the clerk received any additional written comments?
Not by 4:30 today.
Thank you. I now declare this public hearing closed. And if you will turn to the actual applications, I would ask for a motion to approve the Amity Teen Center application for energy efficient siding and windows in the amount of $24,900.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the Teen Center application for lighting and HVAC renovations in the amount of $24,500?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we are now at item number 5, Warren. Warren is going to review with us the paving, the annual paving program. He, as in other years, has established the priority list. I think Jerry has copies for everyone.
Yeah, I'm passing them out now.
I'll go back to your report. We'll go back to your report.
There you go. One for you.
Okay, want to tell us about the paving program, Warren?
Sure. This year was a little bit of a challenge because there was an adjustment to the budget allocation, and then we needed to implement a cushion because of the zero reserve balance. I made a last-minute modification from a preliminary draft that was given to Tony, and I don't know, Ellen, if you saw that or not, but given the finances, what we are with the list that you're looking at, we have roughly 2.68 miles covered of roads in town that are going to be paved under this program. The roads include a mix. There's mill and overlay, and there's also full depth reclamation. And if you're looking at the list, it includes, there's 2 types of pavement being used, so the list is kind of split, but the total dollar requisition that I'm going to be asking for a bid waiver on is the total of the 2 items.
So are there any questions about the road priority list and paving? Any
So the
questions,
2
Warren?
items just are the 659 and change in the 662?
Right, well, the 659 represents the cost basically of the area of work that's going to be covered with the
Okay.
reclamation work that's going to be done on the
Right.
roads, plus the paving
Yeah.
application and material.
Okay.
And-
We have a $700,000 budget item, line item, right?
Correct.
So what's the total number?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
Well, the
$662.5.
bottom number covers a cost
Not a million,
that's
too.
implemented, there's still an
That's what I'm
unknown.
trying to understand,
Well,
okay.
if you carry the subtotal line across,
Yeah.
that's the first line that you're discussing.
Right.
Those are pretty much the estimated actuarials.
And then the little
There's-
add-ons at the
There's
bottom.
there's
equal
an
a total of
unknown variable,
662.
there's an unknown variable because of tack coat that's
Yep.
being used, curbing that's gotta be applied
Right.
in certain areas, line painting that's gotta be done, apron adjustments for all the paving. So we need an allocation. There's also a structure cost that's gonna roughly cost around $21,000 to replace the structures that are on these roads for drainage.
Okay.
And Maureen, you feel comfortable with the $38,000 cushion that gives you enough to be able to?
We're operating very, very tight. And, you know, the problem is when we get into this, I could do this in a couple ways. I could take care of all the roads that are full depth reclamation, and then the other roads which are, let's say, they're passable right now without touching them, leave those as kind of a sidebar, a cushion. Baldwin Road, I have to do something that's,
And remind me again, how many miles of roadway in town? I think it was 7.
it's 78 point something. We use 80 as in terms of discussion.
A town road?
Yes.
My only point being, so we're doing about 3 to 4% a year if we're doing 2.5 to 3.5.
Historics, we've only had 1 year where we had an allocation because the sewer asset was sold, where we had that money to put into road work, which basically doubled our normal road work. This is, represents an average of what we typically do in the course of a year. What I see here in town, though, is obviously there's a big variable because of asphalt costs. The oil that it's manufactured with, it's a fuel-driven cost, and that has a big influence on what we can do. And we don't get that. Basically, we purchase off the state bid, and there's areas, plants that we can purchase from, and it fluctuates. We go to the plant that's closest at the lowest price. However, those prices, even what you're seeing before you, can fluctuate up or down by the market price of the asphalt. And what I see in town is we're doing good without going to bond, and we're holding our own, but we do get, you know, random calls that this road is in this condition or that road. I mean, I could select a lot more,
Yeah, sure.
you know, obviously. But some of those things, because roads that deteriorate, they're on a curve. You want to keep your good roads relatively good because you lower the cost. If I have to get into the full depth reclamation, I'm putting 2 courses of asphalt down versus 1.
Warren, do I recall correctly that we're unusual among towns in that we fund this out of our operating budget and we do it pretty regularly every year as
This
opposed
is all
to funding?
capital funded. The operating, the only thing we do out of that is crack sealing.
Capital, but out of our annual budget,
don't
we don't
bond.
bond
Right.
for this.
No,
No, we
bond.
don't. We do
Bond.
not bond. This is funded on an annual
Yeah.
basis.
Right.
So what I think I'm hearing you say is eventually that may happen because we're doing 3 to 4% of the roads. And didn't you tell me last time typically a 10-year average that it lasts, 10 to 12? Is that what you said? Something like-
Asphalt has an expected life use of 10 years.
So we're
And
not,
then because there's environmental reasons, the product itself, but you have ultraviolet ray, you have the freeze-thaw cycles, vehicle weight loads on the road, all those are contributing factors. We've got roads that we've paved not so long ago, and they're starting to go into failure. It's just look at the last year's weather.
so we're doing a nice job of trying to get to the worst or the ones to keep them at a nice level, but at the same time, somewhere down the road, probably because of percentages, we may need a larger amount of miles.
Our
10
goal
miles
when we
and
initially
bond.
started a paving program was to attack what we would consider in town arterial roads. It's the traffic load with the highest volumes of count, speed, and things like that, where the most vehicles cross every day. Side streets, the less active roads, they don't get the punishment, and the road that's bad this year is going to be bad next year. One of the roads that's on this list, it's a small section, 700 feet, but the road was almost 3 miles long, and when we
factor in doing this in phases, we do segments. And so this is a representative, it's good, but people have to understand, if they're calling me to have their road added to the list, I have to look at the town as a whole and where the money is going to be spent the best, in my judgment, to strengthen it out. Just the modification I made, we increased the mileage on this list just because of the modification I made, and it with a lower budget number.
So in the past, we have, I don't think we've always done 700,000. I mean, we've increased
We were
that.
down, when I
Right.
started with the town, it was $50,000.
That's- Yeah, and then it kind of went up to 500,000, as I recall.
We were 250, went
Right.
to 350.
So we still didn't bond, we just
No, we never bonded.
increased, right,
Never
exactly.
bonded.
So I don't want to
But we've been
have that be a
consistent
concern
pretty
at this
much,
point.
right, we've been
Right.
pretty much consistent
Right.
with the $700,000 in average.
Right.
Warren,
So-
Sal War Inc.,
Yes,
you know where they're located?
they're down on Bradley Road.
Bradley Road, okay. Oh, they're local. Okay.
We're going to move to those now.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Okay, because that's the
that's
bid
part of the
waiver
request.
Can I just ask one last
assignment.
question on your, I'm pretty sure your priority list can and will change if something pops up.
Every
You-
year.
You just change it around.
Every
This
year.
right now is,
But it-
for those who see it on TV or go on the website and think they're definitely gonna, it depends.
It's not a plug and play issue
Right.
because one road is different in size, length, areas.
My road's never gonna be
Yeah.
out here, so.
Mine's on there now.
So Warren is recommending and requesting that we award the paving and reclamation contracts today, that we do a bid waiver and go with the state contract.
Yes.
The first is a bid waiver for pavement milling and reclamation, taking the state bid, and that would be for Garrity Asphalt Reclaiming. Is there a motion to award that to Garrity?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Likewise, the bid for pavement material and application service, Warren is recommending that we take the state bid and award the contract to Salwar Inc. Is there a motion to approve
So
that?
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Joe, any questions?
Well, I got one answer. Yeah, that, if you could, Warren, if you could help me understand the back grid and follow along as to how we got that number and Salwar is the lowest bidder. Or
Salwar actually was on the state bid contract, and I gave you the numbers in the memo request. I think Tony gave you those.
on the back of the memo is a spreadsheet. It's a chart
Do you have it?
with Layden.
No, I don't have
Here.
it.
Exhibit price sheet.
Oh, that's probably the state bid sheet.
Yeah, there's a price sheet and some.
It's kind of
numbers are missing.
confusing because the numbers are not consistent. I was just trying to figure it out. I'm sure you can look at it.
Down on the far left where you see the company's name, the
Yeah,
product that we're going to be using is Class 1 and Class 2.
class 1 and 2, okay.
Now, those costs, I don't know, on this one here, there's a price discrepancy. But anyway, it's only $1 a ton. But if you look under those two items,
And so Layden Industries Class 1 pricing is
right, you can see the
significantly lower than...
company price of those vendors on the state bid, Layden, O&G, Salwar on this
Right.
particular sheet.
Yeah.
And if you look at those same products that I'm describing, and the spreadsheet that you were given tonight has the costs that I'm referring to down on the lower portion of the sheet. And that represents the costs that are on this spreadsheet that you're looking at from the state
So-
contract.
So Class 1 and Class 2, we're looking at handwork and leveling?
Those are the variables that I was talking about.
Handwork and
Because when you do anything with a driveway apron, it's an unknown variable until you actually do the work on the road and see what the driveway needs. It could be 3 feet, could be 5 feet, could be 20 feet.
And how
We
many-
try
okay,
to match it.
I understand.
How
No,
many
but now I see where they're lower in price. I can see
Yeah.
that.
How many
Zeroing.
tons do we, I see where it's 500 to 200, 500, 2,500.
It can vary anywhere from 5 to 10,000 ton.
Okay, so we're in that over 5,000 tons.
Yes.
All right, that makes it a lot easier for me to
Well,
circle in what the rates
are
are.
you looking at that for
I'm just
the
looking-
application?
You know, when you look at the whole list of rates, they have.
Oh, yeah, we are
And
on-
some, like Layton is cheaper in some
Right.
smaller numbers. for tonnage than others. So I was just trying to compare.
If
Until
you
you
look at
zero in on
Stalwart,
income.
it doesn't make a difference. They're, depending on which product you're on, it's the price that's the same for either product.
Okay.
If you were to go by vendor to vendor, he still comes out lower overall.
Yeah,
I see that now.
Yeah.
We can see that now.
Any other questions? Susan? No. Okay, so we have a motion and second to award the contract to Salwar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Warren.
Okay,
Thanks, Warren.
Thanks, Warren.
thank you.
You do know what road's mine in case you need to change your race, right?
Hey.
You'll have to remind me again.
That road's never gonna
We have
go.
an ethics code.
Violation right there. My road will be 100 years. They don't even know where my road is.
Classify one of those local roads.
So we're now at item number 7. 7A is Tony's monthly report, which I suggest we skip. Everybody can read it, but we can hear from Tony later. The funding requests, if there's no objection, I'd like to skip to C because Roy Ivins has been waiting very patiently, and maybe we can take up the insurance item. If no objection, Roy, thank you.
Town retained me to do an audit and review of the property casualty insurance program, which I did, found some problems, mostly in the property coverage, was able to develop a set of specifications that address those problems. The 3 proposals we received all addressed them, so we can rest comfortably that the program that will be enforced on July 1st will be okay. We received 3 proposals, 2 from the incumbent broker, 1 from Kerma, plus an incomplete one from another broker, which we could not consider. The bids came in with a reasonably close range, only about 7.5% difference between the high and low from the average. But we added up with a suggestion that the insurance be changed to a different insurance company with the same broker that's been handling the town right along, and move to Argonaut and New Hampshire for the July 1st period with a low bid of $756,000 in round numbers.
Are there questions for Roy? If not, is there a motion to award the property, auto liability, and workers' compensation insurance coverage to low bidder Argonaut Insurance as presented by H.D. Sager Company for a total of $755,954, and the coverage to be both for the town and the Woodbridge Board of Education?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Roy. Thanks for your
Thank
help
you.
on this. Now we'll go back to item B, funding requests. The first is, well, I'll make a motion that we approve line item transfer number 1415-26 in the amount of $1,570. This is requested for the purchase of some small pieces of equipment as requested and described by Pua in the attached memo, which we've all had. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion about the items? Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think, okay. The next item is the CMed update. We're at 7E.
7, 8, right. So I'm just reporting this. Tony's not here, obviously, and he and I attended a meeting, a CMed meeting, about 2 weeks ago. As you all probably have read in the paper, CMed is dissolving, breaking up. Many of the towns have left or are about to left or gave notices of intent to leave. It is running, it can't survive with the few towns that may stay with CMed, so it is actually dissolving. And all the towns who were part of CMed have to find alternative providers to do the service that CMed has been doing for us. And basically, CMed is part of our dispatch system. They coordinate a couple of very important things in the event there is an accident in town and we need to get a large number of ambulances coordinated to come to Woodbridge to take care of a mass kind of accident. They do those coordinations. They also, in those situations, notify the area hospitals that people will be coming in to the area hospitals. That is not done by our dispatch. That has to be done by CMed, who has a region-wide network to be able to carry out that role. We pay a fee to CMed every year. So now that CMed is no longer in existence, the town needs to find an alternative provider. There are about 8 towns, and Woodbridge has indicated the desire to go with those 8 towns that are going to AMR. AMR is our existing provider for our emergency services. AMR has indicated to these 8 towns that they can provide the services, they have the equipment necessary to do the services. Many of those 8 towns also use AMR for its initial dispatch on emergency services. So I think the town and Ellen and Tony made the decision that since we do use AMR, we are satisfied with their services. The price was very, very reasonable, that we would recommend that the town would recommend to the Board of Selectmen that we go with those other 8 remaining towns, which are North Haven, East Haven, Wallingford, and 5 or 6, but towns in our region that will be going as a group. The cost right now for AMR, for the services for AMR, will be about $5,000 to $6,000, which is significantly less than what we're paying CMed for those same services. So I just wanted to give you an update, and I don't think we're going to ask for a vote now because we don't have enough information.
We're not going to ask for a vote. Subsequent to this meeting, we met with the fire chief and the chair of the fire commission, and they asked us to look into a different CMed, the Northwest, which is where Bethany is going. So we will take a look at that to compare prices and see if that makes sense. It seemed to us at the last meeting that it was appropriate to go with the larger group with AMR, but we thought we would do our due diligence and just double check that. And there again, we can do it at our next meeting.
And if we do choose to go with AMR, all the 8 towns are only making a 1-year commitment to see how it works out. So it's
Which
not
is
a
very
long-term
important.
commitment.
Right.
Thank you, Jerry.
That's
Great
And
job.
if it's
You're
cost
doing a great
savings, I'm
job.
assuming there's no budget impact, because it's actually a
It's
savings.
going to save us money.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Well, there
Thank
is,
you.
the one
Well, there is
possible
an-
budget impact is that there is pension liability, and when the existing CMed disbands, there will be some pension liability for each town. We're a very small percentage of
Okay.
the total, so I don't
Okay.
think it'll be too much.
Thanks.
Jerry, do you want to talk about the Chase merchant payment?
Yes.
Contract
Again,
now?
this is, Tony has been handling this, but I reviewed the agreement. This is, the reason the town has looked into this is as a result of a request from Recreation, who wants to use credit cards for their programs, instead of people coming in and paying cash. And this is an online-only service. In other words, people won't come in with a credit card and run through a machine. You'll be able to go online, the rec website, and have the option of paying with a credit card. And this is something that Rec has wanted for a while. Tony has reviewed it, gone over it with them, and he would recommend, and the town would recommend to the board, that you approve the request by Recreation to allow them to sign the agreement for the credit card authorization.
Any questions? Is there a motion to authorize the first selectman to sign the agreement?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's great.
The next is item G, which is to award a consulting and design contract for Beecher Road School South traffic and safety improvements to Luke's Consulting Engineers of Meriden, Connecticut. Tony had prepared a memo, which I think was just distributed.
Yeah, but we didn't have enough. I don't think Susan got one.
I have it here.
I can share.
Sorry.
This is the $500,000 steep grant that we've talked about before to enable us to do the paving for the sidewalks and roadways, which is really, Beecher is in dire need of this this service now, and we're hoping to have it. It's not for sure, but ideally it will happen this summer, coordinated with the building project. Some of it has to wait for that. This is an engineering contract, which Tony has told me that we generally consider a personal services contract. We don't always go out to bid for it, particularly if it's under $20,000. And this bid did come in under $20,000. Luke's Engineering has done similar work for us in the past at Beecher Road School, and Tony recommends that we approve a bid waiver and award the contract to Luke's. So I will entertain a motion that we waive any bidding on this contract and assign the contract to Luke's
moved.
Engineering. Thank
Second.
you. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Tony has no other, does he?
No. If he does, we don't know.
Yeah, right.
So, Betsy.
Got three quick things to update everyone on. Last night was the last chance solar workshop at the library. It was the third of 3 solar workshops. There were about 25 people there. And the Ad Hoc Energy Advisory Task Force has been doing a really good job. Ellen asked them to bring a solar program into town, and their goal was to double the amount of solar arrays in town. When they started, there were 15 solar arrays, and there are now 16 additional contracts signed for solar, so they've already exceeded their goal. So it's pretty exciting, the amount of solar that'll be coming into town soon. Additionally, the town and the EDC held the first Woodbridge Business Happy Hour earlier this month at Wheeler's. There was a really great turnout. People seemed very excited to be there, and we are going to be doing this more frequently. The details of how frequently have yet to be determined. We want to make sure we're doing it often enough that it's worthwhile, but not so often enough that people don't come. So I'll be updating people once we figure out the next one and where we'll be going. And for communications, we reached a milestone earlier this week. We now have more than 800 people on the email list, so
great.
it's pretty exciting.
You get another certificate when we get to 1,000.
And that's that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry, Town Council report.
Okay, so we have already gone over A. B is something we've discussed at least one meeting, maybe 2 meetings. That's the Enoch Drive property that the town owns. And the question is whether the board would like to entertain discussions about selling it. And this is just a preliminary update on where we stand. As you know, Terry was here and presented some maps, and I think Jason Morrell from the Conservation Commission gave a report. And the issue, the concern of Conservation was that the original intent of purchasing the property was to allow the public to pass over this particular property that the town purchased 15 years ago. And it's part of a subdivision at Round Hill. It's one of 6 lots. And the intent was to have the public be allowed to pass over this property so it could get to some other town-owned property on the other side. There's 2 little parcels that the town, and it's part of the trails. Lo and behold, we examined this pretty carefully. Terry examined it, and we determined that the existing easement right now is basically an easement to nowhere. It doesn't go to where we thought it went, and it ends at Herb Newman's property.
And it's not on this parcel.
And it's not on this parcel.
Right.
So it really doesn't do, the property is not doing what was originally thought it would do. Right now, the town is part of an association that uses a common driveway. It's about a 600-foot driveway going into the property and is accessed by all the lots that are up there. These are very large lots. The minimum acres is 6 acres. The town obviously has not had use of that driveway and will never have use of it because unless we want to sell it and our house is built on it. What we decided, I talked to, actually Herb Newman called me about 2 weeks ago to say the town owes for the plowing for this past season, which is about $1,500, which was in our budget, and we do budget for the plowing, we knew that. What we didn't know was that the association unanimously, and the town abstained from the vote, agreed to resurface the driveway 600 feet. That was a huge bill, and the town's portion of that is $15,000. We've not paid it, number one. It wasn't in our budget last year, and I don't think it wasn't put in the budget this year. And there may be some argument as to whether we owe it or not, but we're putting that aside because there was discussion about the town possibly selling this property. It's publicly owned properties, and it really is not it has no purpose for the town at this point. There was an abutting landowner who's expressed an interest in purchasing it, Mr. Latronica, And we talked about at the last meeting that we would do an appraisal so we'd have some idea of what it's worth. It's not an insignificant value, it's a decent parcel. But Mr. Electronica has purchased other lots in that area just basically they have a lot of horses and they like to keep it as open space for themselves, and he's expressed interest in this. We have to talk about how, if we do sell it, how we would go about selling it, and the first item and the first priority is to get an idea of what it's worth. And I think tonight is the appropriate time to ask the board to approve going out for an appraisal. There's no commitment to sell, there's no vote to sell, but we need to have the appraisal just to see what we think it's worth. Again, I think it's significant, but we never know.
I just want to add that when we spoke to Mr. and Mrs. Latronica, we discussed with them the goal of having an easement for the trail in the place where people thought there was a trail all along, and they were amenable to that. And so when we do the appraisal, it would be with that easement,
right,
to take that into account. Also, when we last spoke about this, both Conservation and the Land Trust were here, and they were going to get back to us. We have not heard from the Land Trust. Conservation had a second meeting where they expressed their interest in having us pursue the issue with the Latronicas about possibly purchasing the land with that easement, because that's been the goal all along, is to have that trail on that property.
Isn't it so that not only does this piece of property possibly need the easement or needs the easement, but there Latronica's other property or other properties on that stretch, we may need
Newman's.
we need
Latronica, this
we
one
need
is
Newman's
Newman's.
easement.
Yes.
Yeah,
And he said
amenable to that.
he preliminarily he said he would be happy to talk because I think it helps his parcel as well.
And I'm okay with an appraisal, but I just wanted to say, typically, when property that the town owns does it go to an auction, a bid? What is the typical process to us selling a piece of property?
Tony has indicated to me that he is aware, and I'm not even aware of the one he's aware, that we did it on one other parcel 10 years ago, 7 years ago, I don't know. And what we did is we had an open bid. We had people come in, town hall, and give us, not an open bid, but a closed bid. Right. And we advertised, and we looked at the bids, and we chose the highest bidder. So that is obviously one way to do it. Now, keep in mind, any sale of town-owned property must go to a special town meeting. So we have that to look forward to, and the Board of Selectmen would have to authorize the town to go to the special town meeting. And I wouldn't be even talking about this if it was just an insignificant amount of money, but it could be significant, as well as it is costing the town every year to maintain our obligations on that property.
And it has been determined that there is no actual greenway or trail on that property.
No.
Well, do you recall when there
Terry
was
was
a big
I know that.
misunderstanding,
Back and
and
forth,
Terry,
yeah.
I think everybody has agreed now that the trail that they've identified, most of it is on, would be on this property, and there is no easement for it at this time.
Yeah, my recollection was there was an easement right down the middle of that
Right.
piece.
Of the other piece.
Well, no, I thought it was this piece.
I think it was this piece, but it
It
ended
was this piece, but it was never
Newman's
used because
property.
it's up and down this big rocky.
No, but it ended at Newman's property and didn't go up to the town-owned parcel that we all wanted to get to. So the easement ended at no place. And
I'd like to revisit that because that wasn't my
Absolutely.
recollection at all.
Terry has-
There was an easement established that nobody used, and then in fact, by use, there was an easement, there was a trail that came and came off a portion of this piece and then swung into Newman's and then came back down.
It stopped
By
at
use
Newman.
without easement.
The easement was established, was never used.
Yeah.
By use, but
Yeah, going around.
the used trail, if you will, was on this town-owned piece. A portion of it up in the corner, then it swung over onto Newman's property, then swung back onto the town.
I don't think it goes on, I think you're right, but I don't think it goes on to Newman's. I think it ends at Newman, and that was the problem. Everybody was under the impression that it continued up to the town property, but we can take a look at the maps.
Can I make a suggestion that we get a report just to clarify that? But in the meantime, I'm okay with an appraisal
appraisal's
because
fine.
we got the
Fine.
ball rolling.
Yes, get it
Appraisal's
started.
fine.
Do you want to make a motion, Tony?
I'll make the motion that we seek an appraisal for the property, and during the interim, we will get a clarification of the trail and greenway easement.
Okay, and the appraisal will be with an easement for the trail that had been identified.
Probably should identify that though before we get to.
We will.
Right,
I'll have Terry look at it again.
We have
talk to
to.
him.
We can
Yeah,
map it
yeah,
out or
map,
something.
yeah.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Then the only other thing, I have two other very quick, just informational purposes only. I reported last time about the tax assessment appeals that were filed against the town on the reval, and we have a couple more, and I just want to tell you how many, we actually have 5 now. It's sort of increased a little bit, but I believe, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Betsy, I believe the time has gone by for any new ones. I think the 60 days have passed, so I don't think anybody can file new ones. So this is what we have. We have one for 21 Bradley Road, which is a commercial piece of property, and that is pending. We have a second that was recently filed by the Perkins, I think this is Irit Perkins on 19 October Hill Road. And the only thing that's unusual about this particular assessment appeals is Mr. Perkins is representing himself in this case and brought the action in behalf of his wife. He has claimed he has a second count. Usually these are routine boilerplate complaints asking for the assessment to be overturned. This has a second count which is filed under the Unfair Trade Practices Act and seeks attorney's fees and potential punitive damages. I have never seen a tax appeal
Treble
with that
actually
kind.
undercut.
Well, whatever it is, a lot.
Yeah,
So we have moved to strike that second count because we really do believe it's improper. And the plaintiff has asked for a 45-day extension to respond to the motion to strike. So that's the only one that's unusual. The next few are typical boilerplate. Sabra
Does your
Health.
office represent us in
Yes.
those? You do.
I'm not Sussman, Duffy, and Segaloff is representing these.
On the Perkins.
All of them.
On
yes.
all,
Yep,
okay.
on all of them. Sabra Healthcare Holdings, the third LLC, is the Willows, which has filed an appeal, which is significant because it's a valuable piece of property. James Nugent has filed an appeal for 43 Round Hill Road. And we have one other appeal on 12 Luna Drive by people who, by the name of a company called Charmax. And those are the 5 that we have here pending.
21 Bradley is also, that's a nursing home, or is that the Laurel Gardens, or?
No, that's
Coachman Square.
Coachman Square.
Coachman
right.
Square.
And I think
They
I
changed
reported-
their names,
I
so
reported
right.
last time that Coachman Square,
Okay.
the owners of Coachman Square have several assisted living facilities throughout the state, and we understand that many of them have, if not all, have filed appeals in their
Okay.
respective towns.
Thank you.
One last interesting, which was, which happened about a week ago. Ellen received a letter from an attorney by the name of Martha Dean, who practices in Avon, and she indicated that she represents a couple of one Woodbridge residents, and they are challenging the town's gun ordinance as it being unconstitutional. The claim is that we have an unconstitutional gun ordinance.
What is there?
So, not only did they,
By letter.
you can have a copy of this. It's a letter and with a proposed complaint, and I think Attorney Dean does a lot of these cases throughout the state. I think that this is her thing. And we are looking at it, we're going to review it, but she does give us 60 days to begin the process of amending or repealing our ordinance if it is improper.
Do we have our stated ordinance?
Do we have it?
Yeah, we have an ordinance.
We do have an, we have an ordinance that restricts the carrying and the discharge of guns on near public property and near houses, homes, et cetera, homes, dwellings, buildings. So we do have an ordinance. The ordinance committee has, on several occasions, I think when Ed was first selectman, reviewed the gun ordinance at the request of a town resident. He came to several Board of Selectmen meetings and came to the ordinance committee meeting, and he was claiming that the statute, our ordinance, was unconstitutional. We looked at it, nothing ever happened, and frankly, Sandy Hook occurred, and we sort of stopped doing things on the gun ordinance. But it is very likely that we may have to take a serious look at the ordinance. The ordinance committee will have to look at it and make some appropriate changes.
Within 60, well, she gave us 60 days.
She gave us 60 days from May 28th. I have it here. If anybody wants copies, I'll give you copies. Or maybe Jerry will give you copies.
We'll schedule an ordinance committee meeting in July
Right.
to look at this.
So that's that, and I think that's my report.
Thank you. Items 10 and 11 are postponed because of Tony not being here.
Excuse me, what did you say?
Items 10 and 11 are
Yep.
postponed, waiting for Tony for our next meeting. Is there a motion to accept the town clerk's report?
So moved.
Thank you. A second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. First Selectmen's report. I just want to remind everyone that the swearing in for all of us and for all newly elected and appointed town officials is July 1st at 4 p.m. It will be at the gazebo. If it's good weather, it'll be in the center gym. If not, and refreshments will be in the center cafeteria following that. So a few things. On May 25th, we had 2 Memorial Day ceremonies here in town, and unlike other towns where there are parades and sort of a bit more fanfare, both of our events are very solemn and I think appropriate remembrances. One was at the firehouse. It was the fire department remembering their brothers and sisters who had passed away, and then our Memorial Day ceremony here in front of the center building. Barry Josephs once again handled and emceed the event. He did a terrific job. Kathy Barkin sang beautifully. Reverend Parsons from the Church on the Green made beautiful remarks. Senator Crisco was there and also very appropriate remarks. The Police Honor Guard helped out, and the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. So it was and very, very well attended this year. Very meaningful event. Betsy and I were at the South Central Connecticut Regional Council of Government meetings where the budget was approved for 2016. Betsy mentioned the happy hour. I want to commend Betsy for putting it together. It was a little bit of that feeling, you know, when you plan a party and you get there, you're not sure anybody's coming, but it exceeded expectations. I think there were at least 40 people. And as Betsy said, it was very, Susan was there and Tony. It was terrific. People were very pleased to be there. The solar workshop last night was very successful. I attended 2 Eagle Scout Courts of Honor. One I actually couldn't stay, but delivered a citation on behalf of the town. That was Ryan Olenek. He refurbished the trail near the pavilion, the Stoddard Memorial Pavilion. He refurbished it. They pulled out all the weeds. They planted deer-resistant shrubs. You know, every Eagle Scout project is so impressive. The other was Jonathan Schwartz, who built an outdoor chapel at B'nai Jacob. It's a reader's table and 9 benches that the students at Ezra enjoy and members of the congregation. So another incredible project. Let's see. I think I don't have to talk about my meeting with Mr. Prasad. We covered that. And we did meet, Betsy and Tony and I met with Mr. Nugent about his property. If you recall, the Conservation Commission asked us to pursue possibly gaining access to some land so they could connect the entire loop, the trail around the town, and it would require easements or the purchase of some property. We had this preliminary meeting. I think it's very unlikely that this will all come together by a June 30th deadline, which is what Conservation was hoping. But we had a preliminary conversation with one landowner, and there are others as well. So we're looking at it to see what we can do. As far as liaison reports, EDC did not meet. I was at the Human Services meeting where Mary Lee Barker was attending for her final meeting. She has been on that commission for over 15 years, many of them as chair. And there was a beautiful cake. The new social worker at Human Services baked the cake. It was incredible. Just a couple of highlights. Senior Center programming is including, at this time, Spanish classes, free tennis lessons, a trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, and an intergenerational festival with Amity High School students. On the Youth Services side, Youth Services sponsors a Best Buddies program where special education children are paired up with their peers. They had a bowling party, and our program received the award for the best chapter in Connecticut. So congratulations to Nancy Fund and that group. Any liaison reports? Susan?
The library met this week. I had a conflict with not able to attend, and I don't have the minutes. I did attend the police commission meeting, which was a fairly straightforward business meeting, except that there was a crime in progress, and the chief was reporting the progress as we were sitting there. And the good news is our police officers acquitted themselves beautifully, and none of them were hurt, although the alleged perpetrator, I think, was taken away by ambulance. I attended the CCW commission meeting. Golf is in full swing, as they say. That was also a straightforward numbers meeting, and the numbers are moving in the right direction. Everybody seemed very happy about that. I want to just quickly compliment Betsy on the EDC happy hour. I actually spoke with a business person the next day who is your new best friend. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And I also want to congratulate the Amity boys tennis team who took the state championship last week.
All right.
Not nothing. So
Right.
that's my report.
That's good.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I attended the June 1st Town Plan and Zoning meeting. That commission really works hard and gets a lot done in a short amount of time. I have to compliment them. I've enjoyed going to those meetings. Woodbridge Gas LLC and KFP Family Limited Partnership had an application in for amendment of the Woodbridge zoning regs regarding gas stations, and I can't redo the whole thing, but anyway, the action was deferred until July 7th. Traditions Golf Club at Oak Lane wants to have a new sign, and the public hearing was opened and closed, and the commission did approve the application. 180 Amity Road, which is Wheeler's Restaurant, wanted to amend the business hours for the current special exemption permit. The public hearing was opened and closed, and the commission approved the application. Rob Leonard of 175 Amity Road, which I think is the brewery, right? Yep. Had an application for amendment of section something of the zoning regs, and the public hearing was opened and closed, and the commission approved that application. And you recall that we sent a referral regarding the Massaro Farm and the well to Town Plan and Zoning, an 824 referral, and that was approved. They approved that application to irrigate the northern fields. Their next meeting is on July 7th because of the July 4th holiday, and the next meeting of fire is next Monday the 15th, so I'll fill you in next month on that. We had a house energy audit this week, and I got to tell you, it was very great. I just, on a personal note, it was really wonderful, and they think we'll save about $800 a year on energy. So if you can do it,
Share with them.
do it. Yes, exactly. It was $99, and I guess some of that goes to Woodbridge Food Fuel.
Yes, it's
so
like
it was
$25.
wonderful. I bought a lot of light bulbs, so it was more than that, but it was really wonderful. I also, this is the fun stuff. I attended the press conference on the Connecticut Greenways. If you recall, we approved. We are part of that, Woodbridge, and they love Woodbridge. There was a press conference this past Saturday that I attended on behalf of Ellen, and there's a photo. We were in the New Haven Register, and they have now, the coalition announced that the West River Greenway has been designated a Connecticut Greenway by the Connecticut Greenways Council. This was formed 2 years ago and made up of individuals from many different organizations. You can read about it at your leisure. There's photos, etc. And our Woodbridge right now is represented on this coalition by members of the West River Restoration and Flood Mitigation Committee, Stephanie and Frank DeLeo, Stephanie Charleglio. So that was fun. And I did attend the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society's annual spring event, Tavern Night, and it was very well attended, and it was a lovely evening. And that's it. Thank you.
Sorry?
Okay. Just as a follow-up before I forget, because I forgot to ask you earlier, if we can get an update, a few residents asked for an update about the senior center, the grant for and getting work done for the special needs or handicapped bathroom.
Yes, Tony's working on that.
I forgot to ask Tony.
Yep.
Okay. I'll start with recreation. They have not met since our last meeting. We met on the 19th. They had met the night before. Their next meeting is the 22nd. Coopop did try to meet last on the 2nd of June. Unfortunately, they didn't get quorum. And as you know, they were one member down as it is. So when we fill the appointments, it'll be easier for them. They did have a short meeting and just discussed a few things. There were no votes or actions taken. And I did want to remind that they are not appearing on the website when their meetings are or any of their agendas or anything. Basically, someone needs to submit. They don't have a chairman right now, so there's no dates on the schedule for their meetings, so it's hard for me to say exactly when their next meeting. They're trying to meet every other month, but right now they're not scheduled in.
That's what they think.
That's what they think.
Wait till they get our assignment.
As far as conservation goes, the last meeting was on the 21st, and their next meeting would be June 18th. They discussed the joint trail walk with Orange, which took place on the 6th. I did go to Orange. It started on Racebrook Road, and it went up to our trails and then back down. They had a B&B bus available for those who didn't want to walk both ways.
That's part of this Connecticut Greenways.
It was very well attended. It was,
and there's more, I guess, next weekend too.
There, and Massaro had some kind of event the next day because it was Trails Weekend. God bless you.
God bless you.
It was Connecticut Trails Weekend. It was very well attended. Conservation, some recreation members, and other town residents, as well as Orange, was very well attended. It was a nice day for the walk, so that went very well. Also, our trail master came and helped, and there was a guided tour from one of their professionals at Orange. They did also talk about the Deep Recreational Trail Program grant that Ellen spoke of, and they were hoping to try to get some cooperation from landowners and whatnot to see if easements or buying was possible by July 1st. And as Ellen said, obviously it's a tall task, but they were making their best, and that was it.
Thank you. Okay, any other business? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.